Shalom, brothers and sisters.
Shalom.
How everybody doing tonight?
Great.
What we celebrate tonight? Purim. We celebrate Purim. So the topic today is Purim, a story of love and hate.
That's right.
But I'm gonna add more to it. It's also a story of sacrifice. It's a story of war. It's also a story of fear. It's also a story of fast. It's also a story of sorrow that brings joy. So when you go to the story of Esther, a lot of things happen. Come? So first we're gonna need two books today. We're gonna use the Bible and also the Apocrypha. Here in House of David, we do believe in the Apocrypha. We do. Let me see. We do acknowledge the Apocrypha. Come? So that's what you're gonna need today: the Bible and the Apocrypha. Prince. Go ahead. It's all right. So let's go to the book of Esther. We're gonna go Esther. We're gonna go to the book of Esther, chapter 1. And verse 1. We're gonna start with the beginning of the story. I'll tell you. No, you go to the book of Esther. Okay. Come, brothers? So you have to understand what we celebrate. So we celebrate Purim tonight. You got it, Yeshaya?
Done.
Go ahead, Prince.
The book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1.
Everybody got it?
Done.
Let's go.
Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
Go ahead.
That in those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was Shushan,
Now this man is the king. So he's about to show his nation how much money he has, how much power he has. Go ahead.
in the third year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants. The power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces, being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days, in the court of the garden of the king's palace.
Now, one thing I do respect about him, he threw a party for everybody. So you cannot deny that. This is not like America, only the rich celebrate, not the poor. So he acknowledged the rich and the poor. That's one thing I got to give it up to him. Go ahead.
Verse 6, where were white, green, and blue hangings, fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple, to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of red, and blue, and white, and black marble.
Go ahead.
And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse from one from another, and royal wine in abundance.
So this man is showing his kingdom how much power he had, how much money he had. So, but when you go into this also, you have to understand the book of Daniel prophesy about who? The Persian. So this is the reason why I told the brother, put this picture right here, because we went to captivity for 70 years. So the head is off. The head represents the Babylonian, Nebuchadnezzar. He's gone. So what we're dealing right now, we're dealing with this empire. From here to here. We're not dealing with Greece. We're not dealing with Rome. And we're not dealing with the 10 toes. We're only dealing with the Persians and the Medes. So for you to understand that, you have to read the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, I believe the 7, and the chapter, the 9, chapter 2. But we're not dealing with all that. What we're dealing with is this right here. There's a reason for that. What I'm showing this is a reason for that. We're dealing with the Persian Empire. We're not dealing with the Babylonian. We're not dealing with the Greece. We're not dealing with the Romans. Okay? And we're not dealing with the 10 toes either. Not now. So, read verse 8 and 9, for instance.
Verse 8, and the drinking was according to the laws.
Okay.
None did compel, for so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure.
Go ahead.
Also Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house.
So even sisters at that time had what you call girls' nights, or girls going out. So even back in the days, they had their own little things going on. The man is partying, the sisters is, well, the Gentile is partying. Okay? All right, so let's jump to verse 10.
Verse 10. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbonah, Bigtha, Abagatha, Zathar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus, the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal.
Go ahead.
To show the people and the princes her beauty.
Now everybody knows that a man loves a beautiful woman. Come? So this brother, this king, he want to show his wife, the nation his wife. Go ahead.
For she was fair to look on.
Because she was a beautiful woman. Go ahead.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment.
What she did?
The queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment.
Oh yeah? Go ahead.
By his chamberlains.
Go ahead.
Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Go ahead.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the thinking, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Adamatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom.
So all these dudes, they knew what happened. And they knew that she disrespected the king. But something is about to happen. And I tell people all the time, this one is a man thing. Because every man that's married, you want some type of respect in your house. This is the king. So what he did, he called his wife. He wanted to show his wife the world. And she refused. So that's embarrassed to a king. This is not like America when you look at, what's that idiot that used to be the president?
Trump.
Trump, his wife push him. He be trying to hold his wife and she just kicked his in. This is not back then. This is not when you go into the British Empire when so-called Princess Diana was cheating on her husband. They end up killing her anyway. This is not the same thing here. This is when man was men. That's why you have to understand the empire. Nebuchadnezzar, that would have never happened to him. The Persia, they're gonna stop that. But the Greek and the Roman, that's something else. That's Esau. Good? So let's go right back to the story, Prince.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti?
Now this is all a man speaking. What we gonna do to this queen? What's the reason? Go ahead.
According to law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus.
So if I'm the king, I give an order, you gotta follow that order. There's no talking back. You can't speak back to me. This is not here in America where you have people going against Bush, against, what's his name? Trump. What's the other one? The new one? What is it? Biden. If I'm the president, you mention my name, I'm taking your whole family out. In righteousness. You can't just talk to King David like that. So it's a man thing. Go ahead.
By the chamberlains. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only.
What?
Hath not done wrong to the king only.
Go ahead.
But also to all the princes.
All the top men, go ahead.
And to all the people that are in the provinces of King Ahasuerus.
And all the other men that's around the kingdom. Go ahead.
For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes.
Read that again.
For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes.
We can't have that. Any man that's married, I don't care what you say, you want peace in your house. Done?
Done.
So they say, now we can't have this going on, brother. That's not going to happen. Go ahead.
When it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
She refused, but go ahead.
Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
So men want peace. So they had a council. They say if this word get out, all of us in trouble. Because when we go home, she gonna slap me inside my head. She gonna, what? Order? What are you talking about? We equal now. You're not over me. You better leave that star Adam alone. So they had to have a council. We can't have that. Like I say, if you marry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you go home, you want peace, especially if you're a man. This story is a beautiful story, but it also goes into the man too. So we're gonna be dealing with Mordecai. This king, not so much. Yeah. Esther, and what's that demon name again? Y'all know who he is. And we're going to be dealing with him. Stop right there. No, keep going. Keep going.
Verse 19.
Go ahead.
If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before the king of Ahwar.
Now, most people, when they break this down, they say, the Most High have something to do with it. I say, I'll agree. But the Most High step in later on. Really, in the 4th chapter. In the 3rd chapter. Come? So, go ahead.
And let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
What?
And let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
So in other words, all the men came together and said, we got to get her out of here. Let's replace her with someone better. Now, if you're the queen of the empire, why would you want to give that up to somebody else? How dumb can you be? How stupid can you be? You in charge. Why you want another woman take that position? Me, like I told everybody, I'm going to fight for my kingdom. I don't want it all. Whatever the Most High promised me, I don't want it. Fried chicken, watermelon, extra houses. Let's not talk about sisters, you know they're going to get mad. Anything else, I don't want it in the kingdom. But she passed the kingdom to somebody else. How dumb can you be? Go ahead.
Verse 20.
Go ahead.
When the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire.
Go ahead.
For it is great. All the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
Because men want respect. It's here in America that us black men is going through it. It's right here. Actually, it was this girl was, you know, she put something on YouTube and she was breaking it down. And I said the reason why a lot of black women getting divorced is because of their mouth. And you know she's agreed with that. They know it's their mouth. But the reason why she been replaced is her attitude. How you gonna give your kingdom to somebody else? How dumb can you be? Go ahead.
Verse 21. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters unto all king provinces, and to every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language.
Go ahead.
That every man should bear rule in his own house.
Read that again one more time.
That every man should bear rule in his own house.
Read that one more time.
That every man should bear rule in his own house.
So men have to rule their own house. This is the order that the Most High put together, even according to the Gentile, whatever they want to call themselves. Okay? But there's a reason for that. Now, the $1 million question is, where is the Israelite now at this time? What? Where the Israelites?
Persia.
And where?
Persia.
They're in Persia.
Oh, yeah.
But which group that was in Persia? Because remember, some of us already went what?
Back to Israel.
Back to Israel. That's why you have to understand the book of Daniel, 9th chapter. Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter real quick.
Ahwar, when you say Persia, where was this Persia we were located?
I don't remember, man. Thank you for asking. And Iraq. Iran. Go ahead, Prince. Read on. Yeah.
Daniel chapter 9 and verse 1. In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books.
By books which Jeremiah wrote. Go ahead.
The number of years, whereof the word of the Adonai came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
So Jeremiah prophesied we was going to captivity for 70 years. Under where? Nebuchadnezzar, which is the head. But the 70 years is over. A lot of Israelites went back to where? To Israel. Some of them stayed where? In Persia. That's what the whole story came about, because it was the other Israelite. I don't know what. They stayed there. They didn't go back to Israel. That's what the whole story is about. So let's go right back. That's why also when you went to the 70 weeks, it also go into that too. Come. So drop that. Let's go right back to Esther. We're also going to use the Apocrypha.
were 2 and 1?
Yeah.
Chapter 2 and verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti, and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan, the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegi, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given to them. And let the maiden which pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so.
Okay, so it was a rule that passed. Bring all the young virgin, and the king gonna choose one of them. Con? So, jump back to verse 8.
Verse 8.
Yeah.
So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house.
Go ahead.
To the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women.
Now I'm sorry, jump back to verse 5, then 8. Read 5 and 6.
Gone. Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew.
It's a what?
A certain Jew.
Now remind you, now this Jew is not in Israel. He in where?
Persia.
He's in Persia. Go ahead.
Whose name was Mordecai.
Whose name was Mordecai. Go ahead.
The son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, and Benjamin,
Go ahead.
who had carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity.
So he went into slavery under Nebuchadnezzar. The 70 years over, what they supposed to go back to Israel, but they didn't do that. They went to what? To the Persian Empire. That's what the whole story is about. Go ahead.
With the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up H.O.D.C, that is Esther, unto his uncle's daughter.
Now, you need to understand this. Read that again.
And he brought up H.O.D.C, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter.
Okay, now Esther's in the picture now. Go ahead.
For she had neither father nor mother.
Go ahead.
And the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
Now that's a blessing right there when you have a father and mother and your uncle take you for what? For his own daughter. That's a blessing. That's how a nation build a nation. Come. Go ahead.
So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women. And a maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her.
That's cool. Now when you read verse 12 to verse 20, y'all can read that on your own. Esther became what? The queen. Come? So we're going to jump to verse 21.
Verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name.
Now remind you, this dude was trying to kill the king. So Mordecai heard what they was about to do to the king. He told Esther. Come? Go ahead.
And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree. And it was written in the book of Chronicles before the king.
Go ahead.
After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, chapter 3, verse 1, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
What Mordecai did?
Bowed not.
Okay, go ahead.
Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said to Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened unto them, and they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
Now, what's the reason that Mordecai didn't bow down to him?
He's not a Jew?
Nah.
The king wasn't a Jew?
Nah. What's the reason Mordecai didn't bow down to him? What was the reason?
Commandment.
Nah. What was the reason? The reason is in the Apocrypha. So let's open the Apocrypha. Let's go to the rest of Esther. It's in the Apocrypha.
Yeah.
So, did y'all find it? It's in the Apocrypha. It's in the book of Esther. The rest of the chapter of the book of Esther. Y'all gotta get it. Y'all got it?
Khan.
Okay. Let's go, my brother. Yeah, stuff from
Start from
yeah.
the first one?
yeah.
All right. Part of the 10th chapter after the Greek, the book of Esther. The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther.
Go ahead.
The Mordecai said, God hath done these things.
Now this is him breaking it down a little bit. You don't see this part in the Bible. You read this in the Apocrypha. Come? Now this is Mordecai speaking. Go ahead.
For I remember a dream.
See, he said, I remember a dream. The $1 million question, when does this dream happen? Go ahead.
Which I saw concerning these matters, and nothing thereof hath failed.
Go ahead.
A little fountain became a river.
He said, pay attention to that. He said, a little fountain became a what?
A river.
A river. Go ahead.
And there was light.
And there was light.
And the sun.
And sun.
And much water.
Go ahead.
The river is Esther.
The who goes who?
Esther.
Now remember what he says, the river is Esther. It's a reason for that. This is a dream. This is a prophet is seeing a vision. Go ahead.
Whom the king married and made queen.
So y'all know the story. So he married Esther. Go ahead.
And the two dragons are I and Ammon.
Now, here's the problem right there. He said the two dragons of who? Mordecai
And Ammon.
That's the reason why he never bowed down to him. The Most High showed him a vision that Haman is a demon. He saw that in the dream. So he said, I'm not bowing down to you. I know who you are. That's the reason why he never paid him no attention. Because the Most High showed him that long time ago, this dude is a problem. This dude's trying to kill the Israelites. He's trying to kill the Jews. So the Most High showed him two things. Mordecai is a dragon. Another one, we're going to go to war. Ammon is also a dragon. So you have two men about to bump head. How far this thing go? This thing go way back to the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter. Jacob and Esau. You remember when it was in the womb fighting? Let's get that. Somebody get that for me. Genesis, the 25th chapter.
21.
Don't teach hate, brother. It's not hate, it's love.
Love, all you need is love.
Verse 20, start at verse 24. 25, 24.
Fine. Genesis chapter 25 and verse 24. Hold on, I gotta find this one. Verse 24. And when the days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
They call him Esau. Go ahead.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
Now, Haman know that. He know the history because he's an Edomite. He know the story of Jacob and Esau. That's why he's a dragon. He's ready to kill the Jews. He know the story. That's the reason why he got issue with the Israelite. Because he know he's an Edomite. And when you read more into the Apocrypha, it tells you the whole time he was a liar, man. The whole time he was trying to, what? Deviate from prophecy. And this thing. He was trying to deviate from prophecy because no matter what you think, the Persia is ruling. He was trying to make the Greek rule. You can't, you just can't do it. He was trying to mess this whole thing up. Another brother tried that. It was who? Peter. And Christ told him, get out of here, man. Get behind me. He was trying to stop prophecy. You cannot stop prophecy. You're wasting your time. I'm going to show you that later on, what he was trying to do. The whole time he was in the Persian Empire, he was hoping the Greek take over. But the Most High already put a sign to it, the Persians going to rule. Greek just have to wait. Rome have to wait. And the 10 toes have to wait. Nebuchadnezzar ruled for 70 years. Now it's the Persian time. You just have to wait. He didn't have no patience. Let's keep going about this man. The scripture talk about it. You can drop that. Let's go back to the story.
The rest of us?
Yeah, verse 7.
Oh, 7? All right.
Yeah.
Verse 7.
Go ahead.
And the 2 dragons are I and Ammon.
You heard what he said? The 2 dragons and I and Ammon. Go ahead.
And the nation were those that were assembled to destroy the name of the Jews.
You heard what? So the whole dragon represents the other nation. This is a vision that the Mosai showed Mordecai. So he didn't bow down to him because he had something else going on in his mind. It's always a Jacob and Esau. This is not hate. Well, don't talk about the white man. So what you want me to talk about? This is not hate. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And my nation is this Israel.
He said, my nation is Israel. Go ahead.
Which cried to Yahweh.
Now, when you go into the story, we gotta go to it. Well, this Apocrypha break it down. Let's go, my brother. Let's go.
And was saved, for the Other One hath saved his people. Salah. The Other One hath delivered us from all those evils. And Yahweh hath wrought signs and great wonders.
Go ahead.
Which have not been done among the Gentiles.
Go ahead.
Therefore hath he made 2 lots. One for the people of Yahweh.
He made what?
2 lots. One for the people of Yahweh.
One for Israelite.
And another for all the Gentiles.
I didn't put this in the book. So the kingdom for the children of Israel, and the Gentile, you just got to sit down somewhere else. That's just the way it is. But Mordecai was trying to throw this whole thing away. Not Mordecai, I'm sorry. Haman trying to do whatever his name is. He was trying to mess this whole prophecy up. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And these 2 lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before Yahweh among all nations. So Yahweh remembered his people and justified his inheritance.
Go ahead.
Therefore those days shall be unto them in the month of Adar, the 14th and 15th day of the same month, with an assembly.
Now, you have to go back to the book. Esther is that little river. Now, what do dragons do? They drink water. So, Amen is using Esther. Mordecai is using Esther. They need that water. She's that person in the middle that the dragons keep picking on. But she only listened to one dragon. And who's that dragon? Mordecai. That's what this whole thing was about. The Mosai showed Mordecai years ago, days ago, because he didn't go back to Israel. He stayed in Persia. The Mosai said, I'm going to show you something about this clam. Let's read about this clam. He's a clam. Just like the other white men. They a bunch of clams. Let's go back to the Bible. We're going to come back to the Apocrypha. Let's jump verse 6. 3 and 6.
The book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 6.
Go ahead.
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone.
Now, this don't only have beef with Mordecai. He only have issue with Mordecai. Let's see what happened after that. If I have issue with you, I'm not going to try to hurt your children. I'm going to see you as a man. Come.
Good.
Go ahead.
For they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were...
What he trying to do?
He sought to destroy all the Jews.
Go ahead.
That were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus.
Go ahead.
Even the people of Mordecai. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman, from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is the month of Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad, and dispersed among the people, in all provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's law. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them.
And he lying. Go ahead.
If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hamida.
Now jump verse 13. If you finish that.
Hamida, that the Agagite, the Jews' enemy.
Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the letters were sent by posts into all the king's provinces to destroy to kill and to cause perish all Jews, both young and old,
Both young and old,
little children
little
and
children and women.
in one day.
And I got something to tell you. Those days are over when the Egyptian would say, just kill who?
Firstborn.
Firstborn. But not the sisters. You remember that? He said not the Hebrews.
Yeah, just a male.
Not the Hebrew sisters. Just kill the male. Those days are over. They killing you. They killing our wife. They killing your sister. They killing everybody. Because they know for a fact we can bring them back. So they're not playing no more. See, the day that the Egyptians said, you know what, let's just kill the firstborn, but the woman stay, nah, those days are over. Is a brother, he was crying on YouTube. He said his wife went to the hospital giving birth healthy. She's dead. He said, I know they killed her. They killed her in the hospital. They're not playing with us.
John.
And if you're not somehow, some way sex trafficking, it made the news about 3 months ago in Atlanta. They found like maybe 85 women. I didn't know what color, right? Sex trafficking. That thing came and go in the news. That was not the topic. That thing was for 5 minutes in the news. 5 minutes. And you know what sisters in there. So they're not playing with us no more. Remember, his mind is in the Greek Empire. He is a white man. He think like an Edomite. Go ahead.
Both young and old,
Go ahead.
little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed.
Go ahead. Now jump to verse 4. Go ahead.
Chapter 4 and verse 1.
Yeah.
When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes.
Now this brother, once again, he's pleading for his people. He's crying for his people. Go ahead.
And put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and the decree came, there was a great mourning among the Jews, and fasting.
Now that's why I call Purim a story of fasting, crying, love, being in love, honesty, love your own people, die for your own people. Because I don't know how true it is. I saw this movie years ago. It was Mordecai and Ezra. It was a Hollywood movie. I don't know how true it is, but I believe it. Mordecai was trying to tell Ezra, Esther gonna marry this Gentile. What you think Ezra did in the movie? He screamed at Mordecai, because remember it was Ezra that told them Gentile women, get the hell out of here. You remember that? I don't know how Esau put this together. I don't know where he found it, but I believe it. And Ezra in the movie was mad. He said, what are you talking about? Why will you let Benjamin, my sister, marry a Gentile? Mordecai was telling the movie, it's a dream. The Most High revealed that to me. Ezra got pissed off and ran. And I believe it. I'm telling you. But Mordecai saw the vision. Come? But we're going to see something else. Go ahead.
Continuing with verse 3.
Yeah.
And his decree came. There was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it to her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him.
Go ahead.
But he received it not. Then Esther called for H.O.D.C, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai, to know what it was and why it was. So H.O.D.C went forth to Mordecai, unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate.
Now, remind you, Esther's already the queen now. Her life is a little better than the Jews outside that's crying. But when you go back to Jerusalem, them brothers was trying to build a temple. That's a whole different topic. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And Mordecai told him of all that happened unto him, and to the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay for the king's treasuries for the Jews, to destroy them. Also he gave them a copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them.
So now he passing the news to Esther. Now you see how the dragon is drinking from that river? You see how that dragon is, now he's not using Esther, he's telling Esther the truth. But Esther's that little river that the dragon need. Without Esther, the Jews in Persia is gonna die. But the other Jews in Israel was okay. They just had a different war. They was trying to build the temple at that time. But Esther is that beautiful sister in the middle. Now watch when you keep going, Haman is about to please with her too. But go ahead, Prince.
To show it unto Esther, and declare it unto her, and to change her that she should go in unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people.
Go ahead.
And H.O.D.C came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto H.O.D.C, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king in the inner court.
Now, once again, I gotta stop you. Once again, remember, the king is not you and I. Like I said, they're not like them idiot president.
Right.
You can't just talk to the king.
Right.
You can't just walk to King David at that time. You know, it is what it is. So the king have rules and regulation. You can't just show up at his house. Come.
Done. Done.
You can't just show up. You know, I'm dead serious. You can't just show up. This is not like us in this captivity. You get all types of texts. Your wife said, I'm going to beat you up. They're going to your job. You getting fired. You know, they're taking your child support. That's not the same thing with this type of people. They ruling. Like I say, it's a man thing. No disrespect to my beautiful sisters. It's a man thing. Come? Let's go.
Verse 11. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death.
To what?
To put him to death.
So without the king permission, you show up, you're getting your head chopped up. Go ahead.
Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
So Esther is telling Mordecai, look, man, I love her. He loved me. But I can't just walk to the king like that. There's a possibility that I might get my head chopped off. That's right. And the king will do it. How dare you? So brothers and sisters, we're in the worst captivity, man. We don't get no respect. Even our sisters too. What, sisters? All right, this ain't coming. Let's go.
Verse 12. And they told Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house.
Now, once again, remind you, this woman is married. So there's a $1 million question. If a person married, can a brother check her? Because she's married right here. Mordecai still checked her. I'm going to show you another example. Let's go to Samuel, the first chapter. You can check somebody. I can't check you the way your husband check you, but I can tell you, chill out, sis, relax. You understand? Because Mordecai checked her right there. Mordecai told her, what are you doing? Yo, dude, this is not about you. He checked her, but she's married to the king. Let's go 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel, we're going to jump to verse 9.
What chapter?
Chapter 1. Chapter 1, verse. First Samuel chapter 1, verse 9.
1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 9. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Ahwar, and she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Ahwar.
Now, she's going through something because when you go to the story, she can't get pregnant. So what she did, she praying. But the priest don't realize that. Go ahead.
And prayed unto the Ahwar, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Ahwar of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid.
Now, remind you, Eli is a what? Is the priest. That's not her husband. That's the point I'm trying to make. Go ahead.
And remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man-child, Then I will give him unto the Adawan all the days of his life, and there shall be no razor come upon his head.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Adawan,
Now she praying. Go ahead.
that Eli marked her mouth.
Go ahead.
Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, not only her only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken.
Go ahead.
And Eli said unto her,
Eli said what?
and Eli said unto her,
Her husband said unto her.
Eli said unto her,
Her husband said unto her.
and Eli said unto her,
Go ahead.
how long wilt thou be drunken?
He checked her, but the only thing is she's not drunk. So he did not know that she was praying. She was just moving her mouth. The thing is, we can check anybody. I can get checked. You can get checked. It is what it is, cunt. But I'm not gonna check you the way your husband check you. That's not my place. Nobody, chill out. You might get hit by. I'm not gonna check her the way her husband gonna check. You understand what I'm saying? But he checked her, but she's not drunk. Cunt. But let's see what happened.
Put away wine from me.
He said, move away the wine. Give it to a wall. Go ahead.
And Hannah answered and said, no, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit.
Go ahead.
I have drunk neither wine nor strong.
So he told him, I'm not drunk. I have issue. I'm a woman. I need a baby. Me and my husband, we get it on. You know, we party like a rock star, but it's not in the oven. Go ahead.
But I poured out my soul before the Adawan. Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial.
But that's it. But let's go back to Esther. Let's go back to Esther. That's the point I'm trying to make. But Mordecai, he checked Esther. Because Esther got big-headed a little bit. She's in the palace, she's living good, she's eating good. Mordecai said, what are you doing? This is not about you. Don't be stupid. This is about the people. You here for a reason. Go ahead.
Chapter 4 and verse 13.
Go ahead.
Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself.
Stop thinking about yourself. This is not about you, man. Go ahead.
That thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. Slide. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then there shall be enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place.
Go ahead.
But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed.
You heard what? So he got to bring, and look, you keep this up, the Benjamin going to be destroyed. The Levite going to be destroyed. The Judah going to be destroyed if you keep this up. Go ahead.
And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Go ahead.
Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present at Shushan, and fast ye for me.
That's the reason why I call Purim a story of fast. Because she called for a fast. Go ahead.
And neither eat nor drink 3 days.
3
night
days.
Or day.
How many of you brothers can go 3 days without eating? 3 nights. Nobody. Go ahead.
I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
Read that again. Which is not what?
Which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
So she telling the story. If I go to the king, there's a possibility that it might kill me. But if I die, I die. For what cause? For my people. When I read this, I said, that's a bad woman. And believe me, you, I made a request, I'm going to marry her in the kingdom. Believe me, you. Read that little part again.
I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go into the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
Go ahead.
So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
Go ahead.
Chapter 5 and 1. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
Go ahead.
And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight.
Go ahead.
And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand.
Now this is when the Most High stepping in. Go ahead.
So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request?
So he said, what is your request? Go ahead.
It shall be even given thee to half of the kingdom.
This dude ready to give a woman half his kingdom. Go ahead.
And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day.
You see? Now she's about to use the other dragon. Mordecai is a dragon using Esther. Now Esther about to use the other dragon, which is Mordecai. I'm sorry, which is Amon. Go ahead.
Come this day unto the banquet I have prepared for him.
Go ahead.
Then the king said, cause Haman to take haste, that he may do so as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Go ahead.
And the king said unto Esther, at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. What is thy request? Even half of the kingdom it shall be performed.
Now, go ahead.
Then
Now jump to verse 9.
Then Haman went forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai.
He's still pissed off at Mordecai because Mordecai do not bow down to him. But it's the reason why. What's the reason Mordecai is now bow down to Haman? What's the reason? Oh, come on, brothers. Huh? Yeah, now come on. What's the reason? Huh? What's the reason Mordecai don't want to bow down to Haman? I read it for y'all in the Apocrypha. He saw the vision. He saw who this man is. That's why he's still now bound down to him, man. Because the rule, if I'm ruling, you have to bow down. I don't care what's going on. But he's now bound down to Haman because of the vision. Go ahead.
Verse 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends, and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he advanced him above the princes and servants of the king.
Go ahead.
Haman said moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared.
But he don't understand that she's using him. Because Mordecai told her, this is the devil right there. This is the man trying to kill us. That's why he told Esther, you better get it together. This is not about you. This is about the people, man. Fix your face or I'll fix it for you. This is not about you, man. So now Esther, being the little river, is bringing a dragon. Come drink some of this water so I can set you up in righteousness. Go ahead.
That she had prepared but myself. And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go in merrily.
Where you at?
Verse 14.
All right. Go ahead.
With the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. Chapter 6, verse 1.
Now jump to verse 12. 6 and 12.
Chapter 6 and verse 12. And Mordecai came again into the king's gate. But Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered.
When you check the story from 6 to 11, Mordecai, Haman make some type of request that he wanted to look good, all that crazy stuff. But it never happened to him. It happened to Mordecai. So now Mordecai is in control. So go ahead.
Verse 13. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him.
Go ahead.
And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Go ahead.
Chapter 7 and verse 1. So the king and Haman came to a banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request?
Go ahead.
And it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom.
Go ahead.
Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please thee, king, let my life be given me at my petition.
Now this is Esther speaking to the king. Go ahead.
And my people at my request.
Now she talk about her people. It's no longer about Esther no more. It's about my people. Go ahead.
For we are sold,
For we are so, go ahead.
and I and my people.
See,
to
now
be
she using her people now.
Right.
It's no longer Esther, it's me and the Israelites.
Done.
Go ahead.
to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage.
Go ahead.
Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so?
Go ahead.
And Esther said, The adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman.
The wicked men. Go ahead.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request of his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. The king returned out of the palace garden into the palace of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was.
Go ahead.
Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house?
Go ahead.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
Now, when you go into the story, this dude is begging who now? He begging Esther. This is the big dragon is drinking from what? From that little river. That little river is using that big dragon. But no matter how you put it, the two dragons are Jacob and Esau. Israelite, Edomites. When you go more into the Apocrypha, they're going to tell you that Haman is what? He's an Edomite. And they tell you in the story that that was a whole setup. He was trying to make the empire of the Greek take over. But prophecy will always go. Come.
Done.
Where we at?
Verse 9.
Verse 9, let's go.
And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also, the gallows 50 cubits high. which
Jump to
Haman-
chapter 8, verse 1.
On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Queen Esther. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her.
Go ahead.
And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
Go ahead.
And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
Go ahead.
Then the king held out the golden scepter towards Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha.
When you read before that, Haman wrote a letter to destroy all the Jews. Come? But even Haman is dead. The king already signed on the letter, so he can't go back to what he said. So, but Esther being loving her people, she begging the king, can you please change your mind? Can you write another letter? Go ahead.
Let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces.
Go ahead.
For how can I endure to see the evil that which shall come unto my people?
This is Esther speaking. Go ahead.
Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then King Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
Go ahead.
Write ye also for the Jews as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse.
So he told her, I can't do that, but you my wife. I respect Mordecai, but this one have to go. This is the reason why I say Purim also is a story of what? Of war. Now the Israelites have to fight now. And he's not going to help you. What you going to do? I already helped you kill Haman, but I can't do this one. So this is the beginning of the Israelites started fighting. Okay? So let's jump to verse 15.
Verse 15. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad.
Go ahead.
The Jews had light and gladness and joy.
Now
and
remember
honor.
when we saw the two dragon, when it said was light, and the moon. This is what the vision was all about. So the Most High was showing Mordecai, it's gonna be a terrible time, but you're gonna have some type of victory. Okay? Let's go.
Verse 17. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast.
Of what?
A feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews.
You heard that? Read that again.
And many of the people of the land became Jews.
Because there's nobody party like us. Nobody feast like us. Go ahead.
For the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
Go ahead.
Now in the 12th month.
Jump to verse 18. We're going to start what Purim is all about. Then we're going to finish in the Apocrypha. I'm not going to keep y'all long. Probably another 15 more minutes. Then we're going to shut this down.
Chapter 9 and verse 18.
Go ahead.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof.
Where were the Jews?
On the 13th in Shushan.
In where?
Shushan.
In Persia. This is where the feast started. Not in Jerusalem. It started over there. Go ahead.
Assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof. And on the 15th day, the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
What they did?
And made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Go ahead.
Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting.
The feast for what?
And feasting.
Go ahead.
And a good day.
And a good day. Go ahead.
And of sending portions to one another.
So there was giving gift to one another. So where is my gift? Go ahead.
And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus,
Go ahead.
both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day of the same.
Now
year.
hold that for a second. Let's go to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Read 1 and 2. That's it.
23rd, 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Leviticus chapter 23, verses 1 and 2.
Go ahead.
And the Ahwar spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Ahwar, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
Now, when you read verse 5, that's the Passover. When you read verse 9, that's the first fruit. When you read verse 6, that's the unleavened bread. When you read verse 15, Leviticus 23:15, that's the Pentecost. When you read verse 23, that's the trumpet of blowing, the trumpet of blowing. When you read verse 26, that's the Day of Atonement. That's not a feast. That's just a day we fast all day, right? And when you read when you read verse 33, it talk about the Feast of Tabernacles. But the Purim is not in there. You understand what I'm saying? Hanukkah's not in there. But the Most High let us do it. So Purim and Hanukkah is really a man thing that the Most High acknowledged. Because when I know congregation now don't celebrate Esther on Purim, they will curse you out. They will kick you out of school. That's a fact. They don't celebrate Hanukkah either. They only celebrate those feasts that the Most High put in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. But Mordecai is a prophet. You're not a prophet. You understand what I'm saying? How dare you? Mordecai's name is in the book of life. You're not in the book of life. How you not going to acknowledge Purim? It's about Purim. It's also about war. It's about love. It's about charity. It's about sacrifice because she had to sleep with this demon. It is what it is. It's about loving your people. It's about the sisters too, because this is one thing they can't wait to celebrate. They love Purim, man. For whatever reason, right? Man, they mad at me. They mad at me. But they love Purim. Huh? But it's not in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. So don't let nobody tell you you're not supposed to celebrate this, because you have the right to tell them, wait a minute, Mordecai is a prophet. His name is in the book. You're not there. How you going to tell me not to celebrate? And they give you the dates, the season, what you're supposed to do? By you celebrate Purim, you telling the Most High I love my people. By us celebrate Passover, we acknowledge that the Most High did to kill an Egyptian. It is what it is. But we acknowledge him. Cut? So that's what Purim is all about. Keep going, my brother.
Verse 22. As the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, Salah, Esther, chapter 9, verse 22. As the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy,
Go ahead.
and from mourning into a good day.
That's why I call it Purim, a story of mourning to joy. Cut? While we was crying, we having a good time. Cut?
God.
Where we at, Prince?
The middle of 22.
Go ahead.
That they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions to one another and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them.
No, read verse 20 and 27 again. 22 again.
As the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy,
Go ahead.
and from mourning into a good day,
Go ahead.
that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions to one another and gifts to the poor.
Even give to the poor. Go ahead.
And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, as Mordecai had written unto them.
Go ahead.
Because Haman the son of Hammedatha, an Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews,
The enemy of who?
an enemy of all the Jews,
Go ahead.
had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is the lot, to consume them, to destroy them.
To destroy them. Go ahead.
But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which was devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head,
Go ahead.
and that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows.
That's good for them. Go ahead.
Wherefore they called these days Purim.
What they call it?
Purim,
They call it Purim. Go ahead.
after the name of Pur.
Now, when you read Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, you will not see the word Purim in there. I guarantee you. You will not see Hanukkah in there. But the prophet Mordecai wrote a letter. It's proof right there. Or if that's the case, don't believe in the Bible. It's that simple. Cut? It's that simple. Go ahead.
Therefore all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning the matter, which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed,
Go ahead.
and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail,
In other words, keep the feast going. Go ahead.
that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing.
How many days?
These 2 days.
So this feast will be over Saturday night when the sun go down. So tomorrow's another feast day. No matter how you want to take it, it is what it is. You say 2 days. So if the feast started tonight, that's one night. What about tomorrow night? I think one plus one is 2, right?
That's what they say.
All right, that's what they say.
It's in there.
It's in there. Go ahead.
That keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time.
According
every
to
year.
what? In other words, you got to do it when the month is right. Cut? Go ahead.
And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation,
Every generation. Go ahead.
every family,
Go ahead.
every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews.
Because you have to understand that she sacrificed her body for you. She almost got killed because of us. I mean, for you. So you have to acknowledge it. So by us acknowledge Purim, we telling Esther, thank you very much. We tell Mordecai, you're a wonderful prophet. That's what this whole story is about. Is Mordecai and Esther. But the $1 million question is, why this book called Esther? Why did it not call Mordecai? There's only 2 women, actually it's 3, maybe 4, that have the book they name in the Bible, man. Jeremiah is a man. Peter's a man. Paul is a man. Y'all with me? Jeremiah is a man. What her name doing this book? Because what she did for her people, the most I acknowledge that. Because it's like I say, the story is about how the queen disrespect the king. And they said, look, man, we can't have that. We can't have our other wife or our wives disrespect us. Something got to happen. It's a man thing. No disrespect to my beautiful sister. It's a man thing. Huh? But somehow, some way, this sister make history. This sister make history. This book, what the scripture said, Peter, the thing I was wearing of what?
4 times.
In what? In holy. Who wrote the book? Holy man. She's not a man. What is this? she made history, bro. No matter how you want to take it. Her name is in the book of life. I have to respect that. I have to respect that. Come? Let's go. Now, let's drop everything. So, Kid, finish that. We're going to finish the Apocrypha. I got 5 more minutes, Prince. Go ahead.
Finish 28.
Yeah.
Every province and every city, that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews.
Go ahead.
Nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen and the daughter of Abihail and Mordecai the Jew wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim.
So she makes sure her name is in the book of life. I believe when you read the book of Judith, Judith made a request. She said, I want my name to be in the book of life. You got to respect it. It's a man book. But it is what it is. Go ahead.
And he sent letters unto all the Jews, to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with the words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them.
So in other words, you have to celebrate the right time. Go ahead. And acknowledge Mordecai and Esther the queen. Go ahead.
And as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
It was what?
And it was written in the book.
Which book is that?
The scripture.
The Bible. Come. So let's finish this. Let's go to Apocrypha. Let's go right back to Apocrypha, the rest of the book of Esther. We're gonna jump. When you read the rest of Esther, when you read chapter 14, Esther also prayed. So we're gonna read a little bit about the prayer, just a little bit. Then we're gonna finish it to verse 16 because my time is always up, brothers and sisters. You got it, Prince?
What am I showing you?
Now we're gonna read 11 first. We're gonna read 11 chapter, verse 5, to give a more little understanding.
Done. The rest of the chapters, the book of Esther, chapter 11 and verse 5. Behold, a noise of tumult with thunder and earthquakes and an uproar in the land.
Go ahead.
And behold, 2 great dragons came forth ready to fight.
You heard what he said? 2 great dragons came ready to fight. Who's those two great dragons?
Mordecai.
Amen. Those are the 2 great dragons. How you know that? How you know that?
First chapter tell us.
Exactly. What did he say?
That's right. 2 dragons are I and Haman.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
And at that cry, all nations were prepared to battle.
Go ahead.
That they might fight against the righteous people.
Go ahead.
And lo, a day of darkness and obscurity, tribulation and anguish, affliction and great uproar upon the earth.
Go ahead.
And the whole righteous nation was troubled.
And who was trouble?
And the whole righteous nation was troubled.
Go ahead.
Fearing their own evil.
Go ahead.
And were ready to perish.
Because it was ready to perish. To Mordecai step up. To Esther stepped up. Go ahead.
And they cried unto Yahweh. And upon their cry, as it were, from a little fountain was made a great flood.
Who's the little fountain? Esther. Go ahead.
Even much water. And the light and the sun rose up. And the lowly were exalted and devoured the glorious.
Go ahead.
Now when Mordecai,
go ahead.
Mordecai, who had seen this dream,
Who have seen the dream,
and what Yahweh had determined to do, was awake, he bare this dream in mind, and until night by all means was desirous.
so he kept the dream. Because he knew Haman was a dirtbag. Now we're going to finish it off, find out who this man is. So let's go to verse, when you read chapter 14, also Esther prayed for his people too. So that y'all can read that on your own when you read the whole chapter, the 14th chapter. She prayed for her people. But we're going to do verse 16. It tell you about this man.
Chapter 16?
Yes.
Start at 1?
Yeah. Because when you read chapter 12, 13, and 14, they tell you the story what happened already in the Bible. Unless y'all want to stay for another 5 hours, I can read it to y'all. So let's go verse 16.
Chapter 16 and verse 1.
Read 1 to 14, then we're going to shut it down, brothers and sisters.
The great king Artaxerxes unto the princes and governors of 127 provinces from India unto Ethiopia, unto all our faithful subjects greeting.
Now, when you read in the Bible, it tells you about that in Esther, the 1st chapter, verse 1. Come, go ahead.
Many the more often they are honored with the great bounty of their gracious princes, the more proud they are waxing.
Go ahead.
And endeavor to hurt not our subjects only, but not being able to bear abundance, do take in hand to practice also against those that do them good.
Go ahead.
And take not only thankfulness away from among men, but also lift it up with glorious words of lewd persons that were never good. They think to escape the justice of Yahweh, that seeth all things and hateth evil.
Go ahead.
Oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put into trust and manage their friends' affairs, have caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and hath enwrapped them in remediless calamity.
Go ahead.
Beguiling with falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition the innocency and goodness of princes. Now ye may see this, as we have declared, not so much by ancient histories as ye may, if ye search what hath been wickedly done of late through the pestilent behavior of them that are unworthily placed in authority.
Go ahead.
And we must take care for the time to come, that our kingdom may be quiet and peaceable for all men.
Go ahead.
Both by changing our purposes and always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding.
Now, this is what I'm trying to get to. This is the whole thing right here. Go ahead.
For Ammon, a Macedonian,
A what?
a Macedonian,
A Greek, a Edomite. Go ahead.
the son of Maratha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us.
So Ammon was just in the kingdom of the Persia, but he's not a Persian. He's an Edomite. So what he was trying to do is stop prophecy. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to shut down on the vision that Daniel saw. I don't know what happened with this, Prince. It's not coming up. It'll come up. But when you look at the image, he was trying to shut that down, the whole image. Go ahead.
Verse 11. Had so far forth obtained the favor that we showed toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all men, as the next person unto the king.
Go ahead.
But he, not bearing his great dignity,
Talk about Haman. Go ahead.
went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life, having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction.
You heard that? He believed in his mind that he was going to destroy the Persian Empire, so the Greek could take over. That was the whole thing. He was in Persia. He was trying to set up another empire, but you have to wait for the empire to be destroyed for the Greek to take over. Go ahead.
As well of Mordecai, who saved our life and continually procured our good, also a blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom with their whole nation.
Now pay attention to this, verse 14. Go ahead.
For by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends.
So he was trying to be friend with what? With the king, with the Persia, for one reason. Go ahead.
To have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians.
Well, you see the whole purpose? It was for him to take over for the Greek can rule. But if that's the case, if the Greek gonna rule before the Persian, that's why the 300 they didn't beat the Persians. The Spartan, you saw the movie, right? That's the reason why they didn't win, because Persia had to be bring down by who? By the Greeks. Brothers and sisters, thank you for coming to this beautiful feast day. We acknowledge Esther, Mordecai. What is Purim? Purim is about sacrifice. It's about love. It's about being in love. It's about your people. It's about war. It's about fair. It's about fast. It's about having a good time. It's about giving gift to one another. It's about loving Hebrew Israelite. Remember the two dragons, or Esau and Jacob, or Mordecai and Haman. There's no other way to say it. Another thing, no matter how you put it, we still at this war. Esau never gonna be your friend. I teach my daughters. I have two beautiful daughters. You marry or Edomite, we have ourselves a problem. I'm just putting it out there. Con? Thank you for coming.